Hearthstone Global Games is an epic country versus country tournament where teams of 4 card slingers each clash for national pride.
But in the end, the UK always wins.
Wait, everybody knows it's Germany always wins.
Aren't you Polish?
Is winning all that matters?
It's all about fun and getting along with your teammates.
That's easy when their skills are legendary.
Or in this case, you have an ace player who will never let you down.
So we're gonna see the same old archetypes then?
No, every team needs to bring all 9 classes.
So we're gonna see Hunter?
I wonder.
So let's recap. It's 4 regions, 48 countries, but
Only one winner.
Get ready.
for the Hearthstone
Global Games.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Hearthstone Global Games. It's week 12, day number 2. We had an absolutely fantastic day of Hearthstone yesterday, and hopefully we're due for one today as well. My name is Dan Gaskin.
And I am Falcone, and I'm really looking forward to today, especially after the day we had yesterday. As you said, it was a great day, especially for me. The highlight was Norway versus Singapore. We had the game where Hunter Race came back with the Quest Rogue and beat that aggro warrior deck. And then we had Sequinox's Horror Priest, which I know we both went back to the hotel and looked up afterwards. That was
Oh, I did more than look it up.
Oh yeah.
I played that bad boy for a few ranks. Let's have a look at the format then of the Global Games if you aren't familiar with it. We're through stage 1 now. We had 10 weeks of round robin, and we've got down to all of these teams in stage 2. It is 6 groups of 4, and there was just 3 weeks. As I said, we're in the 2nd week now of this stage 2, and we're getting to the business end. We're starting to see teams guarantee their qualification or at least get close, and they want to get to that stage 3 down.
Stage 3, I'm really excited for Stage 3. That starts in 2 weeks' time. Like, it's actually really, really close. It's going to be 16 teams left, single elimination. 2 weeks of that before the LAN finals, where the top 4 teams will be joining us there.
And that is definitely exciting. Let's have a look at how all the groups are looking right now. Group A then, China sitting pretty at the top, but Norway struggling down at the bottom. There is still a chance for them, however, to get back in. Group B, however, United States, Czech Republic, Israel, Belgium. We will see United States and Czech Republic going up against each other today, Dan.
Yeah, that's going to be a really great game. But moving forward to Group C, Netherlands looking really good once again. Netherlands just won't show any weaknesses in this tournament.
An absolutely crazy side from the Netherlands. Group D then, we can see Brazil and New Zealand both on 1-0. However, will they be able to move forward to the next stage? That is the real question. Group E is Greece and Ukraine, Austria and Peru, so we're going to see plenty of action in Group E today, Dan.
Yeah, but we're also going to see from Group F, my team, Team Italy, who is looking pretty good at the moment. Do you think, Dan?
Italy certainly looked dominant throughout the round robin as well, so I'm not entirely surprised that in the 2nd phase they're doing equally as well. Are they going to be able to move forward to the last 6? Are they going to be able to?
Yes.
Well, they're going to be able to move forward to the last 16, according to this man. Let's have a look at the schedule of all of the games today. It's going to be Austria versus Greece to kick things off. But then we have Peru, Ukraine, Bulgaria, Canada, Italy, Mexico, and then Czech Republic, United States to wrap things out. Any games there apart from the Italy game?
I was going to bring up the Italy game, but
what are you looking forward to?
USA at the end today. I'm always happy to see them playing, and Czech Republic, another great team. So that's going to be one of the best games today. Make sure you stick around for the end. But the first few games we've got coming up as well, very excited for too. We've got Greece versus Austria coming up first.
Yeah, Game King, Wife Coach, Zik and Taig, Johnny Stone, and then of course on Greece, Like a Boss, Deathlord, Logan, and Tsibukas? I think I'm saying that right, but I'm probably not.
Cebu.
Cebu, yeah, that's the one, Cebu.
We're definitely saying Cebu.
Definitely saying, I almost made a very drastic mistake there.
I think you may have done, but we're going to stop at Cebu from now on.
It's absolutely fine. Greece versus Austria, they're both actually fantastic sides. Austria are 0-1, and Greece are 1-0 at the moment. And you know what time it is, Dan? It's time I throw some facts at you.
Okay, yeah, hit me with the facts.
Well, really?
Give me a legitimate reason to laugh, yeah.
Okay, so Austria actually invented the sewing machine. Not really a funny fact, but you know that's something you've got.
Next.
Yeah, next one, okay. Greece. Well, this one's actually quite a cool fact. Okay. You know the saying, "Taking the bull by the horns."
Yep.
You know that comes from the expression of Greek mythology when Hercules took a bull by the horns to wrestle him away and save Greece.
Yeah, that's cool. There are a lot of things that we say that we don't really have any idea why we say them, so it's nice to have a little bit of insight on that one.
It is. Let's have a look and see what classes both of these teams are going to be bringing today. It is going to be a very tight game, an interesting one. Last week we saw Peru go down to Greece 3-1, and we also saw Austria actually losing to Ukraine. So a lot on the line for Austria being 0-1. But just looking at the classes in general, then I think we could be looking at potentially a Paladin mirror for this opening game.
Now, I'm going to get to this more in a little bit, but I spoke to Like a Boss quite a bit a couple days ago, and he gave me a lot of insight onto their strategy preparing for this series and how they prepare for all of their strategies in the Hearthstone Global Games. So that's something to look forward to in a little bit.
Yeah, strategies are always something we've touched upon quite often throughout the Global Games. Do people change? Do people not?
Well, I've got a lot of insight on that from Greece, and let's just say that they have a very firm strategy.
I like firm strategies. Game King versus Deathlaw. It is going to be a Paladin mirror. Now, we say a mirror. It's hard to have a mirror, really, with Paladins, because Paladin is in a spot where there are 3 or 4 very good variants.
Let's be honest for a second. There are a lot of classes in that spot right now. But you're right. I was playing some N'Zoth Paladin last night, queuing up against some aggro Paladins, literally the other end of the spectrum. You got the stuff in the middle, the mid-rangey, well, I guess mid-range Murloc Paladin is one of the names that this class, that this archetype gets called. And there's also Control Paladin with Ysera without N'Zoth. So Ysera making its way back into the meta. Me and Lorinda were talking about this a couple days ago, and Ysera just seems very strong right now. There's very little hard removal in the meta. There's not really Hex. You've got, I guess, Polymorph and Meteor on the mage side. Sometimes rogues have Sap. And there's a couple more, but not actually many ways of dealing with Ysera.
Execute, perhaps.
Execute's
well,
another one.
warrior. But yeah, Sap's kind of fallen out of favor for the rogue. We're seeing Quest Rogue absolutely dominate meta right now.
Look at Druid. They've got no way of dealing with Ysera. Unless you're playing Horror Priest, you've got no way of dealing with Ysera with that class either. Obviously, you can Pint-Sized Potion and Cabal Shadow Priest it, but that's not something you see every day.
It's not something you see every day. What about Paladin in general, in the way that we've seen kind of the Outdoor Peacekeeper Stampeding Kodo combo being removed by quite a few people? We saw it at Seat Story. We just saw it being removed for other options.
That sign set, I missed that. I missed that for a second. Not to interrupt, but missed it again.
It's a shame. That was the moment in their spotlight. Maybe it was some really strange tactics that actually they didn't want anyone to see.
You were just babbling about Stampeding Kodos.
I know, I was trying to ask you questions.
I mean,
it's fine.
I think that it just works so well in these slower decks because of the strength of the Curator that can draw you the Stampeding Kodo. You can use the combination of cards very well against decks like Jade Druid just to take out one extra Jade Golem. Doesn't matter if it's a 13-13 or higher. Like that combo just gets rid of the card. But in the faster Paladin decks, obviously the Outdoor Peacekeeper and Stampeding Kodo, you kind of want to take them out and put something else in, like more fast Murlocs, for example.
Or just Deathwing.
Or just Deathwing.
We've seen Deathwing being included in Paladin.
Which also works with the Curator.
Does work with the Curator. It does mean that you're not guaranteed to draw a Primordial Drake, which is sometimes a big difference. Having the option of going 7 Curator into 8 Primordial Drake always helps.
Oh, you're just swapping out your slightly earlier board clear for a very definitive late board clear.
Yeah, late board clear is always good. Greece then, you said you had a lot on Greece. Well, give me a taster.
A taster?
Give me a starter.
Okay, so according to Like a Boss, this all comes from him. According to Like a Boss, a lot of the strategy for their team comes from him gathering statistics. Like he watches every week. He looks out for patterns with lineups. He said that he believes that a lot of the teams bring their counter decks, so decks that have been teched out to beat another deck, as the second, or the second player brings it. Apparently that's just one of the trends that they've noticed. They've noticed that the teams that have more pedigree, the teams like Ukraine, he said that they're not going to bother researching. They're just going to play the best decks and just storm through everyone. But he believes the teams like Peru are going to actually look up and research properly. That's how they beat USA and the UK. They studied the teams in advance. They knew exactly how to beat them. They put that strategy into effect and they won. And that's something that Greece want to take advantage of.
Yeah, for sure. We noticed that yesterday as well with the Netherlands, just playing good decks, and they were almost surprised by Singapore bringing
the Warrior with Hemet, right?
Yeah, stuff that's a little bit different, a little bit out there.
And as far as Like a Boss's note taking goes,
okay.
So he said that he keeps notes for all of the players individually. He knows the percentage of players that had patches in their hand. He knows the percentage of players that ran patches in their deck. He knows the color of the player's underwear. That's what he said, anyway.
Are we meant to know, like, the color of our co-caster's underwear?
Mine's pink.
Oh, for Goodness sake, you're not meant to tell me. But
Oh.
like, okay, great. Now the whole world knows. That's always fantastic. That's interesting though. I mean, that's just a joke, right?
Of course, the underwear
He
thing's
doesn't
a joke,
actually
yeah.
know what.
I think his point was he knows everything.
Yeah, and you're actually wearing blue, right?
Right.
Okay, good. I'm glad that both of those were jokes. Strong side though, Greece. They came third in their group. The fact that they were able to pip the likes of Hong Kong, Portugal was always a surprise. I don't think people were necessarily expecting them to go through. This was during the round robin of phase 1. And on the other side for Austria, they came second in their group, and they beat the likes of Russia.
Austria's story is a really good one with the Hearthstone Global Games. Again, I always call back to this because it's one of my favorite moments ever of casting this event. I was sat here with Sottle. I believe Austria got the reverse sweep. They were all together. All of the players were together, which made it feel that much better. Hugging, high-fiving, really celebrating. Like, because of that, I want to see Austria succeed.
Yeah, it's always nice to see passion in the global games. We've seen a lot of teams that have won a game and just been like, okay, we win, we're expecting to be there. But when you get the underdog story, when you get someone rising through the ranks that perhaps you weren't expecting, we thought Russia should be here in phase 2. Look at the players that were on the Russian side. We were saying, okay, yeah, phase 2, that should be easy for them. Spain as well had some decent players.
Sottle certainly thought Russia would be here.
Wow, yeah, Sottle did think Russia was going to be playing. But I think we're just about ready to jump into the first game then. The Paladin Mirror, thanks for bearing with us as we waited for these players to get ready. And it is going to be the N'Zoth variant for Game King. I wonder whether Deathlore is going to have something similar.
Spite-Ridge Steed used to indicate that it was a slower Paladin deck, but nowadays we see that card in pretty much all of the decks. Even the really, really aggressive versions manage to fit some copies of that in, so it's hard to tell. Hydrologist also appears in every Paladin deck nowadays, and Consecration, so we don't really have any way of reading what type of Paladin this is from Deathlore.
Deathlore coming off the back of a relatively successful tournament at DreamHack as well. He thinks he could have done a little bit better.
Yeah.
But certainly a very proud performance from him.
He got top 16, right?
Yep.
He's definitely one of the hardest workers on the in the scene. Former teammates with me, actually. I was good friends with Deathlore back when we were both on Fade to Karma. He got top 16 DreamHack Summer last year, too. It's pretty regular in that scene, I think.
So the early start, the fact Austria have got that Doomsayer is going to be pretty important to stem any early aggression from Greece. The option is always, though, how early do you want to play this Doomsayer? Because you could now just coin out Doomsayer, guaranteed to clear the board, and then you could put a Pyromancer down next turn if you wanted. However, you will want to keep that Pyromancer for an equality, so it seems like a rush. But now, next turn, for Deathlore and Greece, if they put down a significant minion that can then help clear off a Doomsayer comfortably, then that Doomsayer is just going to go to waste.
So I think the way it works is if your opponent's played a Murloc Tidecaller turn 1, then you definitely coin out the Doomsayer. You pretty much always get punished by that if you don't. Because then something like Rockpool Hunter into War Leader just shuts down the Doomsayer. In this situation, it's a really tough call. I don't think the Pyromancer's the way to go. I'd be tempted to just pass. I think you can get away with that, because what's the worst case scenario? Next turn, Rockpool Hunter turns this into a 3-2, then War Leader does destroy the Doomsayer, but he'd need exactly those 2 cards. How does Murloc Tidecaller change that?
I mean, he could still play a Tidecaller now, the Doomsayer comes out, and then you play a War Leader.
That would actually finish off the Doomsayer, yeah.
And that was my consideration of potentially coining it out. However, that is relying on either a Rockpool Hunter or some form of Murloc being put on the board. That's why Game King took so long with his consideration of whether to play Doomsayer or not, or at least took his time on a turn that can look relatively simple to some.
Well, it's going to come down now without a doubt, but unfortunately for Game King, despite the fact there was no Tidecaller on turn 1, that War Leader is going to do its job. It's going to buff both of these other Murlocs by 2. It's buffing the Tidecaller by 3. That's 8 damage. There goes the Doomsayer.
Doomsayer done and dusted, and it's all well and good having Pyromancer equality, but it doesn't really work out when a War Leader's on the board, does it?
It's no good whatsoever because... actually, hang on a sec. No, Pyromancer coin equality still isn't good enough. Unfortunately, setting these Murlocs to 1 health actually sets only the Murloc War Leader to 1 health. The other 2 get 2 health. The Pyromancer then does its thing. The 2 weaker Murlocs will survive. So all that will deal with is actually the Murloc War Leader. I think Hydrologist plus Secret is going to have to be the way to go here, but Game King's not going to feel good about it.
Eye for an Eye, relatively useless. Repentance
I
Pretty
think
useless as well. I think this is a definite redemption take.
it's a redemption, especially if you can hit a taunt with it. If you hit a taunt with it, it sort of has the same effect of Noble Sacrifice. And it also adds the additional mind games. Maybe Deathlord makes a bad trade first because he's expecting it to be Noble Sac.
Just keeping that redemption for a little bit later as well. And that Inquisitor is a welcome addition to Deathlord's hand. Allows him to continue to buff up his Tidecaller as well as just putting more of a presence on the board.
Yeah, Deathlord just going to get this Murloc train going now. Vilefin Inquisitor into hero power. He's going to buff the Murloc Tidecaller 2 more times. That's going to be a 6-3 at the end of this turn. The question is, what does he trade in? Because if he trades in the 4-2, then he loses the minion entirely. If he trades in the Murloc War Leader, then he's weakening, I guess, the most powerful Murloc, and it would then die to Consecration.
I think Consecration is your natural thought because it's turn 4.
But then you really want that Tidecaller to go face. So it's actually quite a hard decision for Deathlord.
I think if you consider the Grimescale Chum as a 2-1, then it's an easier decision. You're saying, if my War Leader's not on the board, this is irrelevant, and I would trade every single time. So that's why the decision is made that way, and now he can just continue to go face.
And this board is just getting out of control. Again, a reminder, Pyromancer plus Equality still not going to quite do it. Pyromancer... hang on a sec. Equality first, then Pyromancer, then Coin, then Redemption. I believe that clears everything.
Yeah, that's a nice way to do it. True Silver Champion...
That's okay, it gets rid of the
slow.
War Leader, and it also sets up for the Pyromancer Equality next turn, unless there's another War Leader. So, if he wants to clear the board this turn, it has to be that specific order too. It has to be Equality, then Pyromancer, then Coin, then Redemption. That's the only way to make the Pyromancer proc twice after the Equality's been played.
Can we just note Deathlord's animation here in the player cam? Like, how much he's stressing, like, particular plays to his teammates?
Last week, Rob and I heard an interview with Deathlord. Sorry, with Like a Boss, with the Greece team. And Like a Boss said to us, yeah, we shout at each other. We're very aggressive with each other when we're playing, but we win because of it.
I mean, Hearthstone's a very opinionated game.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised. When you put 4 people together who play the game differently, then there is always going to be a little bit of disagreement. Sometimes it will work perfectly, and that's why we're seeing some teams move forward in the global games, other teams not.
Game King there does go with the slower play. You pointed out the True Silver Champion was a little bit slow, but it did reduce the amount of damage on the board by a lot. Yeah, okay, that Tidecaller's still there. It's going to be dealing 4, maybe 5 damage this turn, but if Finja comes down, that Pyromancer Equality is going to look very good all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, you can push a decent amount of damage to face, but Austria have a chance to potentially stabilize here. And the options for Greece, just a Sunkeeper Tarim.
Oh, Twilight Summoner is not a card you see that often in the N'Zoth Paladin. This is looking like a very greedy build.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times, the Twilight Summoner, and you can understand why. I mean, reviving a 1-1 that also then produces a 5-5 is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But you're right, it is a little bit greedy.
He'd really like it if that Redemption hits the Twilight Summoner. Not a luxury that he could afford to force to happen here. Like, he had to proc that Pyromancer, he wanted to save the coin. But it's likely that now Deathlord just plays something, and it gives Game King the chance to trade in the Pyromancer and develop the Twilight Summoner. Though Game King's going to want to look at playing Spike-Rich Steed next turn.
Now, realistically, if Australia can stabilize here, which they are beginning to, then they should be able, and Game King should be able, to win this game. They should have more value with N'Zoth over Deathlord's current deck. Providing there's no N'Zoth in Deathlord's deck, which we don't think there is, but there is still potential for it to be.
Yeah, I'd say it's very unlikely at this stage. It's all about sustain, though. So Game King needs to survive, needs to maybe get some health up, and really, most importantly, needs to start putting some taunts on the board. Needs to prevent this onslaught of damage that's going to come from Deathlord. The problem is, it's that word again, sustain. Paladins are very good at it, even the aggressive type. Like, Austria will probably find that Deathlord just comes out with more and more and more stuff to hit him with. And it's going to be challenging for Game King to survive all of it, deal with Deathlord's threats, and keep his health up. Ragnar's Light Horde may help in a couple turns, though.
Yeah, there's a lot there for Game King to sustain and just stop this damage coming from Deathlord. And Deathlord is actually kind of running out of options. The fact he had to play Tarim on 6 with nothing else on board for himself was pretty ugly. Does have Curator to refill his hand next turn. But this isn't fantastic for Greece. They went for the aggression. Of course you would. You had the aggressive cards. But I like the patience from Austria to use that True Silver Champion to take out the War Leader and then follow up with the Pyromancer Equality. And it just played perfectly with Deathlore throwing that Finger on the board. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It was the only play he had, really.
It would have been very easy for Game King to spot that play that I described earlier with the equality. Thought, oh, that's clever, do it, clear the board. But this worked out being much better, saving the equality, killing more things with it. And now, not looking so bad. That Sunkeeper Turian was a very weak play from Deathlore for turn 6, actually buffing up the Pyromancer. The Curator seems much stronger. And now, as I said before, that Twilight Summon has been developed, and Austria would really like Greece to destroy it. Seems unlikely, though, as there's a 1-1 on the board as well. That is, a Redemption is the secret that's down. That's why I'm saying this.
Yeah, that's why you said he really wants to be killing off that Summoner, right?
Kind of risky, though, because Game King doesn't have any way of defending himself at the moment. If there was a True Silver Champion from Deathlore now, that would be half of Game King's health gone in one hit.
And Stonehill Defender is going to be so important for Game King because of the fact he could pick up more Tyrians. And if he can pick up more Tyrians, N'Zoth is just going to absolutely blow this game away. And you notice when the first Death Rattle minion came onto the board from Austria, Deathlore turned around to his teammates and was like, oh, okay, it's N'Zoth. Like, how does this affect our game plan? Do we have to play more aggressive now? Do we have to keep the aggression up? How do we win? And he will be turning to his teammates who will have researched this particular matchup as well, saying, are we still favorable? If we're not, what do we need to do to make ourselves favorable?
That is what you need to do to make yourselves favorable. And now we get a much clearer idea of Deathlore's deck here, as he drew a Beast and a Murloc, but no Dragon. So we haven't seen a Dragon yet. There's no Primordial Drake. There's no Deathwing. We've even seen some Onyxia in the past. There's none of that. This is just pure aggressive, which means if Team Greece are going to win this game, they need to do it relatively soon.
Put your faith in the light.
And now that Tyrion's down, and the fact that there's a Redemption on the board and that it's Tyrion going to be eating up all of the attacks, this is one wall that is going to be very hard for Deathlore to get through.
And this is always the most frustrating part when you play somewhat of an aggressive deck. I mean, I'd say this is more mid-range to aggression. Like, this is where we are with Paladin of, is it aggressive? Is it mid-range? Is it control? But the fact you do have some late game, Tyrion should be there as well. That's where it tops out. This was the kind of deck that we saw first arrive with Murloc Paladin. However, it kind of evolved into what we're seeing now from this N'Zoth variant that actually just outright outvalues your opponent.
So how is Deathlore going to get past this? Seems impossible here. Something like a Consecration would be massive as well. It would allow Deathlore to just get rid of the 1-1 and have that be revived, I think. Oh, no, the Twilight Summoner was probably played first, actually.
I think Game King thought about it and actually played the Summoner first, from what I can remember.
Yeah, it just, if you're playing both, it makes just more sense to play that first. So I imagine that's what a Consecration would revive. That's better for Deathlore than reviving the Tyrion, though. Unfortunately, there is no board clear in his hand. It looks like he's got no way of clearing anything apart from just straight trading it in.
It may be just having to put a Spike Ridge Steed on and passing here and allow Austria to actually make these trades themselves.
Yeah, that's...
On the other side of the coin, you could just play a lot of Murlocs, go wide, and then pass as well. And just say, actually, you've got to play the aggressor here, and we'll allow you to try and make these trades. Then we can follow up with a potential Gentle Megasaur.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get poison.
That's exactly what's been happening here. Deathlore was deciding between those two plays that you described, the Spike Ridge Steed going wide, goes wide, sets up for a Megasaur, as you said. And now it's down to Austria. They've almost stabilized. They just need to do a little bit more. They need to get that Tyrion to die. Preferably, they need to get Greece to kill it first, so they get 2 of them. They need to get that N'Zoth down. Rag Lightlord might be worth considering here, but I don't think it has enough of an impact on the board yet. Maybe he just Spike Ridge Steeds up Tyrion.
I like that.
Just to make sure that, again, it's the only card with Taunt. It's the one that Deathlore's got to trade into. And let's see.
Maybe you don't need to.
But let's see. Even if Deathlore then did get poisonous from the Megasaur, what would happen? It would take 2 trades to kill the Tyrion the first time, and then another 2 trades to kill it the second time, and then the Stegodon would still be on the board.
I think I prefer Spike Ridge Steeding the Faceless Summoner because you can kill off then Curator with your Tyrion. You Spike Ridge Steed, and then you can trade into something with your Faceless Summoner plus your dude. They're just going to look to get a little bit more HP.
Again, this works fine because now let's reassess what Megasaur would do. If it grants Poisonous, it would take 1 trade to get rid of the Tyrion the first time, and then it would take both other minions to get rid of the Tyrion the second time because of the Divine Shield. So actually, worst case scenario isn't looking that bad for Game King here. But best case scenario for Deathalor, not looking so hot.
No, if he was able to pick up a Consecration, then actually that would have looked a little bit nicer, but still it's awkward.
Even if he could play Spike Ridge Steed and the Gentle Megasaur, that would be great, because he could buff up the War Leader, make the straight trade there, Megasaur, get Poisonous, make the trades again. Actually, no, you wouldn't need Poisonous then, get Divine Shield even.
Divine Shield would be better, yeah.
Is Divine Shield better than Poisonous anyway?
Depends what situation you're in. In this situation, yes, I think so.
It is, but Divine Shield on its own wouldn't allow the Murlocs to trade into to get rid of Tyrion entirely.
No, that would only be if there was Spike Ridge Steed and Megasaur.
Also, I don't think Deathalor has attacked since that secret's been down. So the extra layer of difficulty for Deathalor here is having to work out, what do I do if this is Noble Sacrifice? How do I play around both? There's Divine Shield. Okay, and then I guess he just doesn't attack with him. Seems fine.
Well, there's another Tyrion for himself.
And a Redemption to go with it, too.
Just attacking the once, so not proccing the Redemption. So I think he's got that read, that it is a Redemption. And now Game King needs to try and work out how he's going to be dealing with this board.
He'll know it's Redemption or Getaway Coda now anyway.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So he's really going to be looking for a Consecration still. We've been talking about it for the last 4 or so turns, but Consecration would make this set of trades much easier.
So Consecration is just a Divine Shield remover in this situation.
It's not where you want it to be, is it?
No, not really. You could use Tyrion just to take out the Stonehill Defender. That's fine. You still leave Tyrion as a 6/1. He's still the primary target. And then you can start using your dude just to get rid of a Divine Shield.
Yep.
And it takes him off the board as well.
I like this. You then trade the Rag Light Lord into the Murloc War Leader. It makes all of the Murlocs weaker. Then I guess you trade the 1/1 into the Hydrologist just to set up the Consecration. No, the Consecration still looks terrible. Spirit Steed's better, yeah. This document does look legally binding, as that thing's been on the board almost the entire game so far. It's finally doing something. This is why I said this deck is so greedy. Okay. It sets up for the N'Zoth, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's just saying, oh, well, I can clear my own board, but then I just follow up with the N'Zoth anyway.
Oh my, does the second Gentle Megasaur do anything? The problem is, if Deathalor wants to play around Getaway Kodo and Redemption, he's not going to want to make these trades. He'd have to hit the... So Poisonous hit the Twilight Summoner, it would summon a Stegodon, and it would resummon Twilight Summoner. Then you hit Tyrion, and then you can't actually get rid of the Doomsayer? Ah. What about Wind Fury?
You play Megasaur, get Poison if you want it, you can get rid of the Twilight Summoner. Stegodon's also there. Get rid of that.
Yeah.
Get rid of Tyrion.
But then
Spike Ridge Steed, but no, you can't.
You've got no attacks left to kill the Doomsayer, that's the problem. Oh no, if Deathalor attacked into Tyrion, that's just going to create another problem. It gets redeemed, N'Zoth is going to summon 2 Tyrions later. It's happening! Oh no, it's happening!
Put your faith in the light.
Okay. Oh, okay, this is really nice from Deathalor's side though. He's setting up the Tyrion, it's going to summon the Ashbringer, and then Redemption's going to proc, bringing it back to life, because it's going to be Austria's turn where the Doomsayer goes off. Oh!
No, but he
like
played it last. That's what I was going to say. He played it last, and the Redemption's not going to bring back Tyrion.
Good point. And did you see in the background, like a boss? He properly face-palmed when that happened and stormed off.
And I think this is just game over, to be honest. We said, the late game for Game King, just too much value. I understand the thought process from Deathalor there, like, you had the same. It's when,
yeah, exactly.
when you're roping, you can make those decisions of, oh, I can redeem it, but no, of course, that's not how redemption works in the end. But now Greece just can play the stall game, put Spike Ridge Steed down, wait a little bit. Unfortunately, I think the inevitable is they are going to lose the game. It's been a tough one. They had a really good start, but it was just that patience from Austria to be able to wait, use that true silver, and then get the consecration. Sorry, get the pyromancer.
They're like high fives from Austria. I love watching them play together. I really do.
And a well-deserved victory as well. They just held on. They were able to stabilize, and they're able to take this first game as well against a Greece side who, well, as you said, there may have been a little bit of frustration in the team there.
You know, I really love watching both of these teams. I know I highlighted Austria there because of the celebration, but I love watching these teams for different reasons. Firstly, they're teams that play together, which is great on both sides. We've said a lot in the past. We like to see that. But Greece is so emotive. And like, when Deathlord made that mistake, the same mistake that I made, like a boss in the background was like saying something, and he properly like went like that and stormed off the camera. Like, it's just, they're so enthusiastic, they're so passionate, and yeah, sometimes that ends up with them getting a little bit aggressive with each other, a little bit loud, a little bit, you know, like they want to punch each other, but they never do. They never do that.
Loud and proud. Let's see how the second game is going to play out and see which decks have been chosen. Johnny Stone versus Logan. It's going to be the Warrior versus the Shaman then, Dan. Hunter not being played today, and the Rogue not being taken from Johnny Stone either.
I mean, Hunter not being played is no huge shock for Logan there. It's a class that a lot of people are considering as, I think, number 8 at the moment in kind of tier list.
Yeah.
In fact, last week, I collected some numbers from when I was casting with Rob, and then I believe during those casts on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, there was 1 Hunter pick and 2 Warlock picks, which is quite a surprise. But then in the NA broadcasts, the Hunters overtook the Warlocks. So
And we saw a Hunter mirror yesterday.
yeah.
We also saw Warlock being picked yesterday as well. Maybe the time has arrived.
All 9 classes, even Hunter, as Lothar so aptly says in that intro video.
I mean, I don't trust that video anymore because Stottle says the UK always wins, and, well, he didn't really get that one right, did he?
I just don't like to think about it. I'm Italian, Dan.
Yeah, that's fine, and Italy will be playing a little bit later, but we're still focusing on Austria and Greece, with Austria taking the first game, and as Dan said, very passionate when they won that one. But we will be moving into the second game. Johnny Stone versus Logan then. I mean, do you have any favourites? If you had to predict the rest of this series after what you've just seen?
Oh man, it's so hard because, as I said, I really like both of these teams. Funny thing, actually, I mentioned earlier I was formerly teammates with Deathlord. I should have mentioned this in the last game because it was relevant then. I was formerly teammates with Deathlord. At the same time, I was teammates with Game King. We were all on Fade to Karma, and those two were just playing against each other. Just funny how it works, isn't it?
That's a nice little humble brag as well.
Brag?
Well, yeah, just a humble brag. Like, I was on the team with Deathlord, and I was on the team with Game King.
I wasn't a player.
I was once on a team with Lorinda, so at least I've got that.
I wasn't a player, though. I was a streamer. They were players. I was just a streamer.
Yes, being a streamer is absolutely acceptable in the Hearthstone world. So game 2, Warrior versus Shaman. Then what do we think we're going to see? Shaman, it just seems to be Evolved Shaman is where we're at. It seems to be the go-to. We have seen the Sea Giant being added to the Evolved Shaman to make it a little bit different. Warrior, though.
So Sea Giant is in there specifically for the mirror match. That's the reason that they've done that. And let's have a look. How do these decks line up?
Oh my.
That's a Cthulhu quest.
That is a Cthulhu Quest Warrior, Dan.
We need to very quickly check Vicious Syndicate.
I mean, yesterday we had a very interesting day of a couple of decks popping up that, yes, had been used in different regions to get Legend, but they weren't necessarily popularized on Europe or America, but they had been seen here and there. I know people have tried Cthulhu Quest Warrior. I have seen it on ladder, specifically. You very rarely see it in tournament setting, though. This is something I want to emphasize from yesterday. People saying, oh, yeah, well, we've seen this deck before. How many times, though, had you seen that kind of deck in a tournament setting?
I don't remember who I was talking to at the time, whether it was you, Lorinda, or maybe even Rob last week. But I was saying to someone, I'm pretty sure Cthulhu is the only old god I haven't seen in the Hearthstone Global Games yet. Well, looks like it's time. Unless for some reason he's not running the big boy himself, that is, which would be odd to say the least. But the fact that there's a quest in there too.
Yeah, quest really helps. I mean, why not have it in it, to be honest? And it's always going to help
Okay, well, Firefly looks like a pretty straightforward turn one for Greece here. I can't imagine why Logan wouldn't play it.
Yeah, Firefly's just a solid start, to be honest. The fact you've got Jade Claws as well to even up, depending on what you're playing against, having the Jade Claws to go and use against maybe Pirates, if you're thinking it's going to be Pirates. However, you would have watched the mulligan and you would have seen what the cards have done. Now we're going to get the confusion.
We're going to find out right now. There is no Cthulhu in this deck.
Right.
Okay, there is no Cthulhu. Confirmed by the fact that Beckoner of Evil did not pop up the cards. So I'm confused, Dan. I feel like we've missed something.
I mean, why not run Cthulhu in a Cthulhu Quest Warrior deck?
It's just a 2/3.
I mean, a 2/3 is a solid body on turn 2, but there we have it.
Now, Johnny Stone is a streamer, a regular streamer. He streams every single day. I imagine, though I have to admit, I haven't been into Johnny Stone's stream in the last couple of weeks. Maybe he's been playing this there.
Yeah, I mean, streamers, I think he has been playing it on stream as well. It always surprises everyone when you get a really weird deck, but there is still the situation with Cthulhu that it still gets buffed. Even though it's in your collection, it still gets buffed. So when the 7-drop comes down that says if it's 10 attack, then you get the 10 armor.
It's really weird how that works as well, because it doesn't appear on the screen. You'd kind of imagine it doesn't. I've seen a build in the past of Evolved Shaman, actually, funnily enough, before Ngoro. It may have even been really early last year. I saw a version of Evolved Shaman that ran the Cthulhu buffers but didn't run Cthulhu. The idea being your end game is Veclaw on turn 7, and then you evolve that to get 2 8-drops without using Cthulhu. So these decks have existed over time, but it's very, very strange.
Essentially, instead of running something like a shield block, they're using the 7-drop that gains 10 armor instead as a way of getting out of range, for example, of what? Secret Mage,
right.
Or, of course, Freeze Mage. Anything that can just give you all of that burst damage. So the fact you can still get the value from the twins.
Look at Earthen Scales, right?
well.
Like, burst armor gain is strong in Hearthstone. And is it Giant Shield Bearer? It's been such a long time, I don't remember if that's what it's... I know it's something Shield Bearer. That gains you 10 armor, immediately.
That's actually a 6-drop, isn't it?
Uh,
It's the twins that are a 7-drop, but you would still get the value out of those as well.
I think it's 7 too. I'm pretty sure it's 7 as well, yeah. But
I mean, this has been like, what, 3-4 months since we actually had a legitimate Cthulhu deck in tournament setting?
no Cthulhu cards there. Then again, there's only the 2-dropped Cthulhu Taunt, and if you're not running Cthulhu, there's no reason to put that in. That doesn't actually buff up the Cthulhu, so that's no good for the Ancient Shield Bearer. Sorry, it's Ancient,
Shield Bearer,
not Giant.
So you only need a few cards then that could actually buff up that Cthulhu that's not actually in your deck so that you can get the value out of those
Well,
cards.
yeah, Johnny Stone's already played Beckoner of Evil, and he's got the Disciple of Cthulhu in hand. That would do it.
That's it.
None of the other cards are relevant. And actually, Disciple of Cthulhu is a strong card in its own right. It deals 2 damage to a minion. That's a good effect, right?
Yeah, it's a very good effect. Hey, why don't Greece just take a Craze Worshipper as well? Maybe they can start playing a non-Cthulhu deck.
Apologies, yeah, there is a second Cthulhu card that does buff Cthulhu, and that's that one. But again,
I like the idea, though, from Johnny Stone. And again, I said this yesterday, when someone brings something that's a little bit off-meta and a little bit different, I really respect that.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter how many people have seen this deck previously, or if you know it, it's just not something that people bring to tournaments.
It's funny that we're saying we might actually finally see Cthulhu in the Hearthstone Global Games. It looks like we won't.
No.
But I'd love to have a chat with Johnny about this later and find out, because in my eyes, like, yeah, why wouldn't you put Cthulhu in? I guess he decided it's too greedy.
Because your finisher is already your question you're already doing.
Yep.
That's your finisher. That's your game plan. That's your end game. You don't necessarily need Cthulhu in there as well. And actually, the cards that you've got in there to get the quest are too important. You don't want to get rid of any of the taunts.
So do you think it runs Veclaw? Because Veclaw's a very strong... Oh, well, he's going to take one
Well,
from...
you take it anyway, but however, Veclaw only works by... It's only the one taunt that counts. When you summon Veclaw and it
Oh, yeah, but I
makes
mean...
a brother, that doesn't mean you get 2
Of
taunts for your
course.
quest as well.
But it's so strong, right? You get 2 4/6 taunts for 7 mana. That's pretty decent. So I wouldn't be surprised if he runs one as well. Just when I mentioned it originally, I wasn't even thinking about the quest, but the fact it's a taunt probably makes it even more appealing.
Oh yeah, I mean, when people tried to make this deck work originally, Veclor was definitely in there. I believe when the original thought process behind it was, oh, it summons me 2 taunts, but of course it's not actually how it works. You only get the 1. But getting 2 4/6 taunts is generally pretty good for turn 7 as well, especially against aggro, being able to stem that aggression.
It's funny how for the longest time people have been saying like the Cthulhu. Oh, look at that on both sides. The Cthulhu cards are sometimes stronger than Cthulhu itself, and we're seeing that Johnny definitely believes that. Running the cards just for the use of Ancient Shieldbearer and maybe Twin Emperor Veclor. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more it does make sense.
I mean, it really makes sense. The fact that we've been seeing Shield Block appear a lot in the latest variants of Quest Warrior just to try and get a little bit more armor, get out of the range. I mean, 10, possibly 20 armor is better than running shield blocks.
It's like 2 shield blocks with a 6/6 body.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Except you don't draw the cards. Anyway, now we've gotten through understanding what this deck is.
I mean, it still actually blows my mind that Cthulhu is still buffed, even though it's just in your collection. Because it does read wherever he is.
Yeah.
He could be.
And he's in your collection, so he's
hiding under your bed. Well, he cares.
If there was a way of viewing your collection while in game, I'm sure you'd see it there with its...
Yeah, just getting a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Logan actually has a big board right now. He's got 5 minions, he's got Devolve, and he's got Bloodlust. So he's getting close to being able to deal a chunk of damage. Bloodlust adds 15 at the moment, 16, 17, 18, 19... 21 damage he'd have if he Bloodlusted it now. Obviously, he doesn't have the mana to play the Devolve as well yet, but the point I'm making is that very soon, Game King is going to have reason to worry, but he does have Brawl in hand, and honestly, the Warrior deck does seem like a pretty good counter to Shaman.
And the fact that the Brawl is a possibility may be why I would have liked to see some form of play to try and push a little bit of damage to face. However, he didn't see the Brawl last turn, so he might be thinking, all right, well, he's not got it now. But even if he does Brawl, Shaman does so well at just refilling a board.
He's playing very conservatively. He's held on to Primal Fin Totem. That's very clearly being held on to for after the Brawl, for the reset or the restock. Thing from below can also be slammed down then too. So whenever this Brawl does happen, Logan will have a way of just putting himself back on the board. The main question is going to be then what happens next. Does Johnny Stone find another way of clearing? He's got Ravaging Ghoul. He doesn't have a Sleep with the Fishes though. Well,
this is the thing. If Austria decide to Brawl now, then Greece can just reload with Primal Fin Totem. They can use Hero Power and a Thing from Below as well. And instantly you've got a board back. You have that Devolve plus Bloodlust combo, which is massive. Just because the Devolve, to get rid of the taunts, you'd hope they don't devolve into taunts.
It's nasty, that combo.
It is deadly. And if Johnny Stone now actually says, I think I just want to play an Ali Armorsmith. I think I'm safe. And then the Devolve Bloodlust comes in. I think it's like 28 damage. Suddenly you're down to about 7. That's pretty awkward.
Yeah. It's looking like it's... Yeah, okay. I think it was 26. But it doesn't matter because Johnny Stone's able to just keep gaining armor. He's got more taunts ready to go afterwards. I think until the Bloodlust represents lethal, Logan kind of has to do his best to just hold on to it, though it might be tempting this turn.
20 damage is always pretty tempting.
Yeah. 20 damage would put Johnny down. It would only halve his health, though, only just. Aya seems good because it survives the Brawl, essentially. If there's a Brawl, 1 minion survives, plus a 4/4 Jade Golem gets summoned. Now it's less comfortable for Johnny, I think. He needs to pick up a Sleep with the Fishes as soon as possible. I imagine he does run one.
Double execute. Ravaging Ghoul as well if he wants, but no, I think this is the perfect Brawl turn. Logan will be looking for something bigger to stick. The Crazed Worshipper would be nice if that survives. And unfortunately, it's Aya. That's the worst result, really.
It is and it isn't. The reason it isn't necessarily the worst is because now he survives another board clear.
True.
If there's a second Brawl, Logan can kind of put a few things on the board. I think now you drop the Primal Fin Totem, your Hero Power, maybe you even play Blood Cell Corsair.
I mean, I'd say it's the worst. I mean, actually, probably a totem would have been worse, just a 0-2 and a 3-3 on the board. So at least you've got some damage you can push.
Yeah, this is worst, I think, most of the time with damage, but you're right, a totem would have been even worse than that. But it's the best in terms of surviving an extra board clear, so kind of a mix of both. I am very curious as to how much Logan's willing to put down here. I think Primal Fin Totem is a definite play. It's just what else he does as well. Does he play the Bloodsail Corsair? Does he maybe even drop Thing from Below? I don't like the Thing from Below this turn myself. Oh. So this tells me that Logan's going for lethal as soon as possible.
Well, I'm not entirely surprised. The fact that he's seen the Cthulhu cards, then he will be well aware of what a possibility there is to come with the armor gain. And there's the other Vector that we were talking about.
As expected. And that's a pretty good card right now too. Not only that, but if it gets devolved, your 2, 4, 6, 7 drops become 2 6 drops, which probably has about the same stats. They just might lose their taunt, if not better, exactly.
And if you're joining us and you're thinking, hey, hold on a second, why is that yellow? Why is Twin Ebla Vector actually going to get value? Johnny Stone is playing a variant where he's running 2 Cthulhu cards just to buff Cthulhu, even though Cthulhu's not in the deck, so they can get value out of these 7 drops.
I imagine he runs another Disciple of Cthulhu as well. Might even run a second Beckoner of Evil if he decides a 2-3 is good enough, but he needs to guarantee that he at least draws 2 of them, right?
I think we would have seen more of this variant if that exact animation would have gave you another point towards your quest.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that would have been an instant deck choice from everyone.
So how much damage is this? 15, 16, 21, 26. Devolve plus Bloodlust is a potential 26 damage right now. That would be 4 off lethal. It's gotta be tempting now, Dan.
Yeah. And you've got Bloodsail Corsair, so wait, you've got patches in there as well?
Oh!
So actually that's 29?
But he gets the Sunwalker! Not only is it a taunt, but it's got Divine Shield. That's actually better than the Emperor Veclash or whatever it's called.
Veclaw.
No,
the other
twin,
one.
right?
Oh, okay, the twin. He has still got Bloodlust if he wants to use it, but he might want to use it in conjunction with patches from the Corsair.
Whoa. Making that trade means that Logan's not afraid of any more board clears. He's just going for the lethal next turn. He's got a very clear plan. However, Johnny Stone has Whirlwind plus Ravaging Ghoul plus Execute, 2 Executes in fact, ready to go this turn. And I think he's going to do that. He's going to wipe out as much of this board as possible.
I might want to put an Ali Armorsmith in the way as well.
He could consider the Ali Armorsmith. Is that a risk? I think that's a little bit risky. I really like this, though, the Acolyte of Pain, too. Pain, Whirlwind, then Ravaging Ghoul. There you go, there was a second Beckoner. And I think there's definitely a second Disciple. The card's just too good.
Yeah, if you're going to run one, I think you run both just to try and ensure that you get the value from it, because if you only have 2 and they're both stuck at the bottom of your deck, then
or even if one's stuck at the bottom, right?
That's going to be the issue.
Actually, yeah, no need to play Ravaging Ghoul here. My mistake. You can just execute both of those. You leave Logan with 2 totems on the board. And things looking really good for Austria. This game is making me happy, Dan. It's making you happy?
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. Hearthstone in general makes me pretty happy.
Yeah.
I'm still wrapping my head around a Cthulhu Quest Warrior, to be honest. What I'm trying to think about, and the debate I'm having in my head is, as Ungoro meta goes on, are we going to see decks like this emerge and become tournament meta decks? Are we going to get to a point where something, I'm not saying it's going to be this one, but some particular deck that's slightly different, slightly off meta, is actually going to change the meta completely, and we'll see a completely new lineup.
Look at Big Druid, Dan. The first days of this expansion, the deck looked really bad. Okay, it was tested in the Hearthstone Global Games, but recently with Osaka and Zigzo's success with the deck, we haven't seen it this week in the Hearthstone Global Games yet, but I think there's still a good chance that we could. Me and Lorinda were saying to each other yesterday, we think that there's still a lot of potential, a lot of things that haven't been tested yet in this current set. Nothing feels stale just yet, which is a really great sign for the state of Hearthstone since Ungoro.
I mean, like, it's been the best expansion, and I'm not just saying that. It's definitely been the best expansion. We can see that from where all of these decks are in terms of how viable so many of the classes are in so many different ways as well. But Austria are now in a position where they can just start putting walls in the way as well as clearing. That Fiery War Axe is a welcome addition to the hand. And then they can just drop a Bloodhoof Brave or an Armor Smith, probably an Armor Smith, in the way as well. I'm wondering that turn where the Sunwalker came up, whether Logan could have still used Bloodlust just to push a little bit of damage. Because now he's starting to run out of options here.
He's got the Doppelgangster, though. I was just about to say, assuming he runs Doppelgangster Evolve,
yeah,
they need to be his next 2 cards, really, if he wants to have any chance of winning this. There's no board clears left in Johnny Stone's hand, so it is a potential. 3 6-mana cards could do the job here.
Well, definitely a great way of reloading and restocking, but it's whether you're reloading against, well, Sulfurus that's already been played, and then Die Insect coming out every single turn. That's the main worry.
Oh, the armor gain for Johnny Stone here. Doppelgangster going to go down now?
I mean, he's just trying to pose enough of a threat with Bloodlust.
That's so risky, though. I understand it. You're right. It's setting up for the Bloodlust. But the downside is... Okay, there's no way of activating that, so that's fine. The downside is, if Austria just trades his weapon and his minions into the 2/2s, it means that if Logan then draws Evolve, it's kind of wasted. Because those 2/2s die so easily right now.
It's kind of a do-or-die situation, though, for Logan, unfortunately. His hand was forced, and he had to try and do something to potentially win this game, because the game is running away from him very slowly. And now the pain train's going to start rolling from Johnny Stone as well.
I think that this game has pretty much reached its conclusion. That quest is nowhere near being complete, but Logan has run out of stuff. And when the Evolved Shaman runs out of resources, runs out of token generation, it has no way of winning the game.
Yeah, I mean, you can use the Selfless Hero to trade in and get Divine Shield on something so there will at least be some survivability on board, and you've got your 5/5 Jade as well. So you can actually clear this board.
Sadly, there's not even a card like Arcane Intellect in this deck. There's no way of drawing more stuff. There's no Yogg-Sarat as a refill on your hand either. This is just all Logan's got now. He did manage to set it up so that the 5/5 gets the Divine Shield. That's something.
I guess the Mana Tide Totem could play an important factor.
The problem is protecting it is just impossible.
Yeah, especially now with Primordial Drake. That means that actually Austria can just clear this board, combined with the Fiery War Axe, the Beckoner of Evil as well. And that should be all she wrote. One minion away, one Taunt minion away from completing the quest for Austria and being able to provide the beatdown. And a Devolve that's just not going to be doing anything.
Turn that 4/8 into a minion that probably ends up with better stats once again. A lot of these warrior minions are understated, so Devolve actually doesn't do that much.
It was a brave game that Logan did play. He was very patient and he was just relying on a lack of removal. He's also going up against a deck that you wouldn't necessarily be familiar with. It's not something that you would have played against a lot. You wouldn't necessarily know how much removal they have. What has been removed for these Cthulhu cards? Are they going to still be running Sleep with the Fishes, for example?
Now, given the amount of preparation that Like a Boss said that they do, I imagine that they may have even been anticipating this deck. Like, it doesn't seem right to me that they're going to prepare and know literally everything they possibly can about the player, but then not bother checking out their streams. So I imagine Greece will have been aware this deck exists, will have considered it as a possibility. But this Shaman deck was not set up to beat it, that's for certain.
Glasses on, arms aloft from a teammate as well. Austria going to go 2-0 up with their Quest Cthulhu Warrior. Yes, you heard that right. And yes, it was successful.
Wait, is it fair to call it a Cthulhu Warrior when it doesn't actually run Cthulhu?
I mean, it has Cthulhu elements, so Quest Cthulhu Styly Warrior.
Quest and Cthulhu's friends.
Yeah, Cthulhu's buddies just coming along to help out, gain some more armor, get 2 4/6 taunts on the board, or 4 in the end it was after picking it up. Yeah, it was a pretty solid game, and I love to see it.
I mean, again, I mentioned Veclaw briefly earlier when he picked it up from the Stonehill defender, but yeah, of course he runs it in the deck. Of course he's going to take it from every possible Stonehill defender he gets the chance to, right? It's an insane card. A lot of people, when Cthulhu first came out, said that it's stronger than Cthulhu itself, and Johnny Stone clearly thinks so, and he's starting to win me over too.
Just pure value. Now, can Australia are out, actually. They didn't even qualify for Phase 2, but can Austria
You're just rubbing salt in the wound
manage to
there,
get a 3-0 victory here? They certainly need it. They're 0-1 currently in this Group E, and it's going to be Zeekentag versus Cebu.
Cebu. Yes, it's going to be the Druid Mirror, and I don't even know what that means nowadays. I said earlier I'd love to see big Druids this week. We didn't see it at all yesterday, but we saw it a lot at Seed Story last weekend. We saw a lot of success. I know that Oskarka has been nurturing this deck over time and really...
just feeding it, watching it grow.
Exactly. And it seems to have reached that point where it's earned the respect of quite a few players now. I wouldn't be too surprised if we see it. Both players picked Druid over... So Zeekentag picked it over Hunter. Cebu picked it over Mage. So let's see. Zeekentag's won't be a... Or maybe a Jade Druid, because if he would have picked that anticipating the Mage. And so it makes sense of picking that because Token Druid's quite weak against most mages, I think. So I'm expecting Zeekentag's to be Jade Druid or Big Druid. Both, I think, are favoured against Mage. Cebu, he would have picked his to beat Hunter and Druid, so it could be Token, could be Jade. It could be either, I think.
From what we've seen of recent tournaments, certainly Jade Druid seems to be the favourite, and in global games we've seen a lot more Jade Druid than we have actually Aggro Druid as well. I don't know if you saw the player cams as well there. Cebu literally has the rest of the Greek team on his shoulders. They were actually all giving him a little massage and just rubbing his shoulders saying, come on, you got this.
Look at that. I called it. Got him right.
You did get him right. It's going to be the Aggro Druid versus the Jade. Now, this is a matchup that is actually favoured for the Aggro Druid ever so slightly. I think around 60-40 in favour of the Aggro Druid. But that is a 40% chance of getting a sustained kind of start from the Jade Druid. If they can get the ramp, if they can get the taunts out, like Dark Reaper, that's always going to help as well. It can be very difficult to break through that wall if you're running the Aggro Druid.
Yeah, it's definitely a game about speed, this one. Greece need to... Really, they want Innovate Fledgling. That's how they want to start, because that only loses to Wrath, and then if there's no Wrath, you just win the game immediately after that. But Firefly plus Galactic Crawler plus Mark of the Lotus, not a bad start either. If you can get a big, wide start, buff everything nice and quickly, that's how they win the game. If we get to turn 8 and the Primordial Drake, yep, that card there, if that starts to come down, that can cause some real problems for Cebu.
Yeah, they need the Primordial Drake just for living mana, to be honest.
This is one heck of a start from Greece, though. Look at that. Firefly, Coin, Flame Elemental, Innovate, Galactic Crawler, Innovate, Mark of the Lotus. I think I'd play all of these cards here. Well, you wouldn't need to play the coin, actually.
Yeah, you wouldn't need to play the coin, but yeah, I mean, that's a pretty solid start, and that's a start that you need against a Jade Druid, especially a Jade Druid that we can see for Austria doesn't have that early game potential. Nothing to answer, no Wrath there, no Wild Growth to get a little bit further into the deck either. And it means that Cebu is going to be able to put enough on the board, pressure Austria here, and then a potential of living mana coming out a little bit later if there is a board clear.
Just do it, Greece. Take your hand, put hand on board.
Hand on board and buff board.
And buff board with hand.
What are you scared of, though, by just throwing everything on the board? What actually punishes you?
I can't think of anything. Like, it doesn't matter what type of Druid it is. Druids don't have board clears. He's doing it. Innovate Galactic Crawler, Innovate, Flame Elemental, Mark of the Lotus, go. Got him.
Because they don't know they're necessarily facing off against Jade Druid yet, of course, but even if you're facing off against Aggro Druid, then this is still a phenomenal start.
Well played.
And who needs a Fledgling on turn 1 when you do this?
That's right, it's fine. He just draws Fledgling next turn, coins it out.
Yeah.
And you thought Big Druid was easy.
Did I?
Not you.
Oh.
I was actually...
You were talking to the viewers.
I was actually talking to Twitch chat there. I was breaking the fourth wall. Not that there is a fourth wall on Twitch.
Okay. And more damage.
That works. Just, okay, never mind Fledgling, just skip to Savage Draw, draw that next turn, that'll do it.
And all there's going to be is a Jade Blossom for Austria. We'll just put a 2-2 on the board. Not like one of those ones you wear. Like an actual minion. Something that is somewhat helpful, but actually...
I was confused, Dan. I thought that you were talking about...
You may as well just throw a 2-2 on the board at this point.
Yeah.
Because you are pretty doomed.
What stats would a 2-2 have?
Probably 2-2. Okay. Depends on the color.
That's really boring. Okay. Yeah, do you know what, production? You've got our permission. You can erupt the volcano here. That's fine. Maybe wait until he starts attacking. Wait until they've got lethal, then erupt it for style points.
How long
Never
can
mind.
you wait
Never mind.
for the last click is the real question.
I like to erupt the volcano when a Doomsayer goes off myself.
Also, I want to shout out the original cursor guy. I can't remember what tournament it was. It was about 3 months ago. It might have been a HCT tournament, and then one man in production was just like, you know what? I'm going to start playing with the board, and he became Cursor Guy. And Twitch chat loves Cursor Guy. And now Cursor Guy has developed across many Hearthstone broadcasts, and it makes me very happy. A swipe does help deal with some of this board, but the Power of the Wild is just going to make this board even bigger. And the fact they've got a Bittertide Hydra as well, just to follow up, I'm thinking this is probably GG, Dan.
Yeah, do you know what? Sabu just making sure that Austria do not get this sweep against Greece. Is there anything Zigantide can pick up that puts a stop to this board?
I mean, a Jade Behemoth does temporarily put a stop to the board.
It absorbs 6 damage, yep, and then the Jade Golem it summons will be able to trade with the 2-2. But Bittertide Hydra going to come down now from Greece, perfectly on curve.
Or just Power of the Wild, and that'll just, that'll be that.
Is that lethal?
So you can send 3 right into, and then you can use your hero power as well to finish it off. And Austria finally losing a game, and there was a little bit of a slap on the back of the head there for Sabu. Oh, that's just so much passion going on. I love it. The Greeks, they're back in the series. There was a lot on the shoulders of Sabu. He was literally being massaged before the game, and now he's being kissed on the face.
I'm a little bit worried about what I'm about to see here. Can we... I think we should probably cut... There we go, okay.
There we go, phew. You never know what's going to happen.
It's safe again. We're not going to be kissing each other here in the Hearthstone Global Games studio. Are we?
Oh, great. No, we're not, thankfully.
Okay.
Was that what's on your mind? God, I was wondering why you were looking at me that way.
Let's take a look at the next matchup,
yeah.
shall we?
Let's look at the next match and see what's going to be going down. 2-1 now to Austria and Greece. They're back in. Can they turn it around, though, with Like a Boss?
All right, it's going to be the Shaman versus the Priest. Wife coach on the Shaman. She's broken her tradition of, I believe, in stage 1 of the Hearthstone Global Games, she played Pirate Warrior every single week, handing the Warrior over to Johnny Stone so he could play his amazing Cthulhu deck. She's going to be playing the Shaman, and I fully expect this to be a Evolved Shaman.
And last week we saw Like Boss against Peru. He played Warrior and Priest, so he's still sticking with that Warrior and Priest. Something that he's obviously very comfortable with. And if anyone can bring this series back to a tied series, it's probably Like a Boss.
Yeah, sadly, I don't remember exactly what type of priest it was from Like a Boss. We've seen all sorts. I think it may have even been Light Warden, as we saw so much Light Warden Priest last week. That was the real deck that stuck with me. But we've seen a mix of everything recently. We've seen Light Warden Priest, Dragon Priest, Control Priest, Horror Priest, Silence Priest. All of these priest decks are maybe not quite viable, not tier 1, maybe not even tier 2, but they exist. And the fact that they exist does complicate things.
I'd love it if it's Horror Priest, because Horror Priest does so well against Shaman, to be honest. That's one of the reasons why it was so successful on ladder from Sequinox. But this looks like, well, at the moment, a little bit more just like a Control Priest, to be honest. But
it could be anything.
Could be anything
really.
with that start.
It could be Dragon. It could be Control. I think it could even be Light Warden. I think it could be anything, just not Silence.
So if you're running like Holy Novas, if you've got your Dragonfire Potion, always good against Evolved Shaman. Any sort of board clears is really going to help you out in this matchup. However, if you don't draw those board clears early enough, you generally struggle to contest the board in the early game, and the Shaman could just run away with it. And by turn 5, they could just beat you if they get the right Bloodlust.
Yeah, that's one of the scariest things about Shaman nowadays. I mean, for me, it's always been one of the scariest things about Shaman, right? Because the moment that you feel secure, the moment that you think, yeah, deck I'm playing against definitely doesn't run Bloodlust, that's when they kill you with it.
Yep.
It's always been a card that you've had to have in the back of your mind whenever you played against Shaman. But nowadays, most Shaman decks have Bloodlust.
Yeah, it's in the front of your mind.
And it's right at the front of your mind. And as you said, it can just kill you on turn 5. Or, you know, Wife Coach has got the coin. I wouldn't even put it past turn 4.
Thankfully for Greece and Like a Boss, he has both Shadow Word Pains as well as the Cleric here. And that's the perfect answer to an early start. Patches drawn as well for Wife Coach. You hate to see that if you're an Austria fan.
You hate to see that, but Lorinda did mention yesterday when I said the same thing. It's not so bad when you got Flame Tongue Totem, because it means it's a guaranteed free 3 damage whenever you want.
This is true. I feel in you. Not literally.
I thought you didn't want to kiss.
Exactly. Shadow Word Pain not going to be used. Instead, the value from drawing a card for Like a Boss, and it's going to be more potential card draw for him as well with the Cleric. And the Operative means this is Dragon Priest done.
With a lot of decks, if you're in Wife Coach's position, you don't play any minions until you've got a way of dealing with the Cleric, because you don't want to give them the free card draw. But as the Shaman, you don't have a choice. You need to put stuff down, and it did set up nicely for the Flame Tongue Totem. And yes, it's nice. I've actually been able to cast quite a bit of Dragon Priest recently, so that work finally paid off. And as you said, it's kind of all about Dragonfire Potions again. Even after the Double Gangster, Dragonfire Potion is usually almost enough to clear all 3 of the 6 mana minions.
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, Dragonfire Potion is just good in general, but it's better in a Dragon Priest because you can have dragons on the board that survive it as well. So you can not only clear your opposition's board, but you can also push damage at the same time.
Oh, yeah, other noteworthy card, obviously, Primordial Drake. In this matchup, it's going to deal with all of the little stuff. Again, the Greek players there getting very passionate. I'm not sure who that was that just walked off, but Like a Boss and Deathlord sat there on the left, talking very passionate to each other there. I guess it must have been Sabu, because Logan's on his own. So it was Sabu that just walked off. It looked like him and Like a Boss disagreed on something.
Sabu's just gone to wash his face, that's all. Okay. After that kiss earlier from Like a Boss, he's not happy.
Oh, he's back. It's fine.
It's a love-hate relationship. It's okay.
I think it is, but it means these guys, they respect each other enough where they're willing to shout at each other. They're willing to make sure their voices get heard, and they want to make sure that they end up making the best possible plays. And I've got to say, this turn looks like there are some pretty darn good plays. Powered Shield, Shadow Word Pain to get rid of the Manatide Totem, and Potion of Madness can all be played with the Radiant Elemental that was just picked up to clear the entire board and set up for a turn 5 Dragonid Operative if Like a Boss draws a dragon next turn.
This is juicy. I'm liking this. They're getting the board control. They're stemming any sort of aggression from Wife Coach. And Like a Boss is also arguing his point very passionately.
Look at that. Yeah, Sabu in the background.
I mean, bear in mind, they were 2-0 down in this series. In the league table, they are 1-0 at the moment. If they win this game, they're pretty much through to the last 16. That's what's on the line here.
Yeah, they definitely do want to win this game. Pretty much, as you said, unfortunately, nothing is guaranteed yet, but it's highly likely. Look at that, Like a Boss putting headphones on, Sabu ripping them back off again. These guys, I would love to see them at the finals and actually listen to them arguing with each other.
There's that Dragonfire Potion we spoke of. Unfortunately, that thing from below is a little bit of a nuisance because you don't really want a Dragonfire Potion this, because it just clears your whole board. You can't play the Operative. Maybe you have to play the Operative on curve here.
Well, that's one of the options. It's horrible, like you said, but it's something that they're going to have to consider. Another option, and this doesn't feel too good, another option is actually trade the Radiant Elemental in and then heal up the thing from below just to draw a card. One of the things that Dragon Priest struggles with is if they have a small hand. He needs to draw these dragons. He needs to draw more of the cards. I think that's something that he may have to look at. Sabu and Like a Boss definitely look like they're seeing different lines every turn here.
Deathlord looks like he just wants to give up. I'm so done with this team. At the moment, he's got no ground to stand on after losing his opening game, so he just has to watch and hope that his team can bring this one back. Okay. And if Like a Boss can bring this back, it will be Sabu back in action with the ace game. And I like this play from Like a Boss as well. Just the tempo out the Dragonid Operative.
This does set up the Dragonfire Potion nicely for next turn. If Wife Coach now goes and puts a lot of things on the board, and if the Operative survives, like I think the most likely thing is that Wife Coach trades away the Radiant Elemental or Northshire Cleric and develops more of a board. If she does that, then Like a Boss has done a very good job at setting up the Dragonfire Potion. It will clear everything while the Operative lives on fully healthy. But no, Wife Coach is going to start with a Devolve here. Bright-Eyed Scout, it's a 3-4. That's kind of low stats for a 4-drop. Argent Squire, a nice card for like a boss to have. Not quite as nice as Radiant Elemental. The biggest nerf there was actually the Cleric, losing 4 health and losing its ability.
Like a boss won't be too annoyed though, just looking at this game in general. The fact he has a Dragonfire Potion just sat there waiting to clear a board at any moment means he's still feeling comfortable and he can still rely on some draws. The Gluttonous Ooze isn't going to get too much value in this game. Of course, a Jade Claws is going to be able to dissipate and give him a little bit of armor, but not very much. It's just going to be a case of being patient here for Like a Boss and not pulling that Dragonfire Potion trigger too quickly.
Yeah, because it's going to be tempting for him to play it this turn, but it's almost certainly wrong.
Now, you want to try at least give your opponent the time to overcommit. If Wife Coach then doesn't play anything and she just carries on with these 3 minions on the board, then that's when you have to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to be facing a beatdown every turn, so I may need to remove this board with my Dragonfire Potion.
Unfortunately, the alternative to Dragonfire Potion isn't so hot. It's Priest of the Feast, which would trade away the thing from below and potentially something else, which is probably fine. It just doesn't feel good for some reason.
No, I'm okay with putting Priest of the Feast on the board. It's something that Wife Coach has to deal with.
Ooh, 17 damage right now for the Bloodlust, 10 off lethal.
I mean, plus you've got patches as well.
Ah, so 7 off lethal, 6 off lethal.
Yeah,
Patches actually adds 4 damage to the Bloodlust.
of course. Maybe tempting. The fact you've got an Aya to follow up as well. Alternatively, you could just play Aya here, right now.
Hang on a sec, I think I miscounted that. 15 damage is... Oh, no.
It's 21.
No, it's fine, it's 21, yeah.
Yeah. Don't you worry. I'm here with you.
Thanks, Dan. Now you're holding my hand, that's nice. So, Aya has to be tempting. I think on turn 6, if you're playing any Jade deck whatsoever, like Aya just always looks like a good play to make. Can I go with it? I like trading into the Priest of the Feast here. I mean, I don't like it, but I feel like it's necessary, but nope. Wife Coach very clearly trying to set up for the Bloodlust lethal next turn, but now, Like a Boss picks up the second Dragonfire Potion. He can play one, trade the Priest of the Feast into the Jade Golem that survives, and still have a second one to deal with any doppelgangster things next turn.
Yeah, this play's pretty much self-explanatory now. They'll still talk it through and have a discussion. But realistically, what Like a Boss and Greece have got to be thinking about is how do we win this game? Yes, okay, we've got a couple of clears here, but we need to be starting to put something on the board that actually threatens winning ourselves, because the Evolved Shaman does refill the board very well. So yes, we can clear it twice, but then suddenly they Doppelgangster evolve. We then try and clear that, they Doppelgangster evolve again, and we are just going to lose to value.
Greece really taking their time though. They've got to allow each other to shout at each other. You've got to allow them to all, you know, get that energy out. There's the trade. Then again, consider going face for a second there, because Wife Coach would have had to make that trade anyway, and hello Evolve! Combo complete, let's do it. Patches before or after the Evolve? I think you actually don't evolve the patches here, because there is the chance of it getting Doomsayer.
Patches is nice with Bloodlust as well, it's just a guaranteed 4 at some point.
Ha! That's a board.
That is a pretty good stats on the board as
2
well.
of those minions have 8 health. So Dragonfire Potion not going to do enough. Greece may actually have to dig for a Shadow of Death here, not actually getting it.
They can continue to dig though.
Okay, got it that time. That would have been a disaster if he missed the second time though, because then that would have been time up.
So now 17 damage available. Oh, I'm with a... Yeah, you Bloodlust. You Patches Bloodlust now, I think. You push this damage whilst you still can, because you've got the following Bloodlust next turn as well. And Austria may have turned the corner here.
Yeah, definitely agree with all of that. 17 damage, gonna put Greece on 6. Greece can heal up a Dragonfire Potion. That does leave the 3/8 alive.
But it's only a 3/8 that can do 6 damage with Bloodlust, so they'd be on 8 after healing up.
So essentially, Greece are okay at the moment. I don't mind, yeah, exactly this. Playing Powered Shield first on one of your opponent's minions that will die anyway. Okay.
You still Dragonfire. The Primordial Drake might be able to stabilize for you a little bit here.
I don't think I'd have
All
minded.
right, so Jade Claws off the top would win the game for Wife Coach here. Flame Tongue Totem also wins the game as well. Austria are going to be able to take this series. We were saying Greece had the board clears, but then they just ran out of things to do, and they were just clearing after clearing. Austria are going to go 1-1 in the group, Dan. Greece also 1-1, so this Group E just got very interesting.
It just broke wide open, right? High fives from Team Austria as usual. Them showing today that cooperation wins the day, not shouting at each other.
I mean, sometimes you've just got to have, you've got to be animated. You've got to be passionate about what you're doing. I wouldn't say that Greece lost because they were getting animated and passionate, but it is nice to see a team really celebrate a victory.
I mean,
for sure.
I described earlier all of the ways in which Lycabos was preparing, gathering all of the stats, but it just wasn't quite enough today. Something that Austria did won the day, and I think a big part of that was actually the Warrior. Let's take a look back at how this series went. Game King taking the first game with the Paladin, Johnny Stone with his Cthulhu's Friends quest warrior. That's what I'm calling the deck, Cthulhu's Friends. Then Sabu winning one game with the Aggro Druid against the Jade Druid, but it not quite being enough to take the series as Wife Coach beat the Priest with her Evolved Shaman.
Do you know what really helped in that game as well for Wife Coach was her decision to go for that Devolve early on. When the Draconode Operative was on the board, she said, actually, we need to get rid of this. We can't allow there to be any clear that also then still has value on the board. If she hadn't have done that, and then we saw the clear come through, then maybe there would have been a chance. But let's actually have a little chat with Austria and see how they're feeling. Guys and girls, or girls, should I say. What an amazing victory for you guys. You're back to 1-1 now. Are you feeling confident about the rest of the group?
Do we feel comfortable about the rest of the group?
We can do this. We can do this.
We can, yeah.
I think we are almost through now, right?
It's looking very good. It's looking very good.
That was very unanimous amongst all of you. Now, I've got to ask Johnny specifically about this Warrior deck. I think you knew this question was coming. I hear that you've been playing this on stream. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that and why you chose to bring it today?
So I confused all possible scouts by telling everyone it's a meme deck, but actually it's a very good deck because it has the same advantages of Taunt Warrior. Some unfavorable matchups are worse, but the advantages it hard counters Mage and Shaman. So in a format like this where you can predict your opponent picking certain classes, I think it makes a lot of sense.
So are you suggesting that we both go home tonight and play the deck on the ladder?
I mean, if you want, you can. I think I have a deck list on my Twitter account. That's Johnny Stone HS, and feel free to copy it and try it out for yourself. I think it's amazing.
Good plug. Good job.
There we go. I'm definitely going to try that later. And do you often like kind of practice together? Is there a lot of communication as a team?
Well, I think not really practicing together, but the guys do a lot of the deck preparing and all that. I rather just play them. But yeah, we are a team, definitely.
Yeah, and a good team as well, and you played them well today. That Evolved Shaman game was actually
Yeah,
really
it was good fun as well.
It was great. But congratulations again. Best of luck in the rest of your games.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. They're happy.
They're happy.
I like happy.
Them being happy makes me happy, Dan.
Yeah, and happiness makes Lorinda somewhat happier as well, and that's always good.
I don't know. I think that's a bit of a stretch, that.
I like seeing.
He's giving you evils right now. What
Let's
is
have a look
going on?
at Group E and see how those results have affected it. So Ukraine 1-0, but Austria and Greece now both 1-1. So as Austria was saying, they feel like they are in a pretty good spot to potentially qualify. 1-1 is a good chance of moving forward, even if it is that third place qualification, Dan.
Yeah, well, that third place qualification is going to get complicated. It's something we're going to have to work out a lot going into next week, as every single game really is going to count. But let's take one last look back at that series. And what a great one it was to start off the day. Game King, sadly, not being able to proc the Doomsayer, but it doesn't matter. He was able to equalize the board later, literally, with the equality and the Pyromancer followed by the Redemption. And just wasn't going to allow Deathlord to get any more damage in. Stuck on 9 health, but that 9 health was enough.
So Austria will certainly be looking out for the Peru versus Ukraine game, and they'll be watching very closely. The trouble is, if Peru were able to get a victory against Ukraine, that's when it does get a little bit sticky and everyone's suddenly on 1-1.
Ah.
Yeah, and then it's not so certain that you're going to be moving.
And what does that mean then, Dan, after the all in 1-1?
Well, it means that everyone's on 1-1, and of course only 2 people can finish on 2-1. And then you're in a situation of, oh, how do we qualify as a third best placer? And you just need to be hoping that other groups are a little bit more set in stone. So there are 2 0s and 0 2s, or 3 0s and 1 2s, for example. You need to have a clear chance of actually qualifying by having better tiebreakers than every other group.
Yeah, so last week, Greece beat Peru 3-1. Greece just lost 3-1 in this series. Austria won, 3-2. So there's no 3-0s or anything in this set of games anyway. I don't know what that sign is that Zigantai's holding up there. I didn't quite get it up on the camera, unfortunately.
But this was a really well-played game from Wife Coach, and I think that devolve was actually the key moment. Because otherwise this could have been very different. Getting the evolve as well is always going to help, and it was a very good evolve. I mean, if this was an evolve that could have just been cleared completely by the Dragonfire Potion, then maybe Greece would have been able to stay in the game.
The average stats of 6 drops from a Doppelgangster Evolve is just marginally above 5/5. So the fact that 2 of those minions had 8 health and were able to survive the Dragonfire Potion did end up being a big deal.
It was a big deal, but it was also a very big victory for the Austrians. But next, we're going to be carrying on with Group E. The next game is going to be Peru versus Ukraine, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back very shortly.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.